Ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask, bearing in mind the tragic circumstances of the incident in Manchester, that we all stand in a minute's silence before we commence the meeting. Thank you very much. Could I welcome you to the meeting of the Cabinet? Before we start, I'd just like to say that a fire drill is not expected, so if the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building quickly and calmly. Please use the stairs and not the lift. Once outside the building, please gather outside the Yorkshire Bank on the opposite side of the road. Exit by this door, which is labelled fire exit, and follow the green signs. If you need any assistance evacuating the building, please make yourself known to a member of staff. And could we make sure all mobile phones are turned off or set to silent, please? I would advise you that the meeting, or at least all or part of it, will be recorded for future broadcast, and members of the public are allowed to film council meetings in any case, so there is a member of the public stroke council who is filming for his own purposes. But in fact there is a council recording taking place also. There are no children in the room, so I don't have to cover that point in relation to filming children. We have one apology, which I think is Councillor Longden. Thank you very much. Do we have declarations of interest?
Chairman, can I just declare that until very recently I was a member of the Lucas Chamberlain Trust. I've tendered my resignation. I haven't had that acknowledged by the County Council, and so strictly speaking I am still classified as a governor. So in regard to the Borough Plan Chair, I will leave the meeting.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you very much. Item 4 is to confirm the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 15th of February. Is it agreed these are true and correct record?
Very agreed.
Item 5 is public consultation. I will in actual fact do this in order of the agenda. We sometimes move things on the agenda if there are public, a member of the public wants to speak about something later on, but I think under the circumstances today. On item 6, we've got 5 people down to speak. Councillor Grant, Councillor Kondaka, Carl Mayer, Michelle Kondaka, Peter Gilbert. On housing strategy, you have to, for the Cabinet meeting, the council meeting is different. There are questions have been sent in for the council meeting at 6 o'clock, which is different. At the Cabinet meeting, if you wish to speak, you speak to the clerk before the meeting. Item 7, I think we have all your names down for the council meeting later.
I'm not speaking at this one, but obviously my colleague.
Can I just clarify for people? I'll go through the names first and then I'll clarify the situation. Housing strategy, item 7, we have Councillor Condorca and Michelle Condorca. Item 8, establishing a Nuneaton and Bedworth lottery, we have Councillor Condorca and Michelle Condorca. And item 9, dog control public space protection order, we have Michelle Condorca. This is different from the council meeting. The council meeting is based upon questions which have previously been submitted or statements which can be dealt with at the council at 6 o'clock. In this meeting there are, it's basically statements. People can speak about any item on the agenda, but they can't ask questions. But members of the cabinet can ask the speaker a question if they, based upon what they've said, if they need to clarify something about what that person has said. But at full council at 6 o'clock, the speaker can ask questions and these will be responded to by a member of the cabinet. So I'm going straight on then to item 6, Borough Plan. And I'm going to take, first of all, the order in which the names have been given to Mrs. Baxter. I'm going to take Councillor Graham first. I'm taking Councillor Graham first. Sorry, there's a member of the public or a member of the council arguing.
No, we're just questioning not who was speaking, but normally you present the item first and then we speak.
It's totally up to the chair of the meeting. I'm going to let Councillor Grant speak first.
Thank you, Cabinet. I am here today to recommend the petition that I created in opposition to nearly 700 houses being proposed for Bedworth Woodlands in the draft borough plan. A sound, sustainable and fair borough plan cannot contain the woodlands. The HSG 7 site is in flood zone 2, as the Borough Council has admitted in the borough plan submission document. We've all seen how badly the woodlands can flood, as it has as recently as last year, when we had Woodlands Lane heavily flooded. Newtown Road is also containing heavy traffic and long queues on a daily basis. This would only become a lot worse if 700 houses are built in woodlands, and residential roads, including Woodlands Road, Bluebell Drive and Buttercup Way, could become rat runs with hundreds more cars using these roads every day if the HSG 7 site is included in the borough plan and houses are built here. The woodlands also has some of the last remaining Arden countryside in the country, and development of this land would see precious farmland lost, damaging our local rural economy. The habitats of protected species such as the greater crested newt and endangered butterflies would also be lost. This is difficult to replace and it threatens the rich ecology of our borough. The Labour Borough Councillors also have a duty to uphold promises made during election time on which they were elected to protect the woodlands from overdevelopment. Numerous leaflets have been seen from the Labour Party promising that their councillors and the Borough Council, while they remain in power, would always oppose building houses on the woodlands, and this inclusion of the HSG 7 site in the borough plan, while the Labour Party control the Borough Council, is in complete opposition and contradiction to this. The Cabinet must therefore uphold their promise and support our petition, which demands that the borough plan cannot be submitted while nearly 700 houses on Bedworth Woodlands remains part of the plan. I think, considering all of this, it puts forward a very strong case for removing the HSG 7 site from the borough plan, and I strongly urge the Borough Council Cabinet to do this before such a document is sent off for submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any points of clarification they wish to ask Councillor Graham about what he said? No? Thank you very much. Councillor Condorca.
Good afternoon, Chair. The borough plan has been going an awful long while. It's in its 11th year. And I fundamentally object to the whole target being set. not individual sites, not individual bits of countryside, but the whole way it's been done. The whole 14,000, maybe 15,000 we're going for. The evidence says we're not doing well in Nuneaton and Bedworth. Since around 2008, the town's growth has slowed, population growth has slowed, and the last population data showed we grew by 145 people in the year between 2014 and 15. 145 people. Now that will pick up hopefully, but we are not growing at the rate where we need 14,000 homes, 10,000 homes, or even 8,000 homes. In fact, the objective housing need, which is what the plans are supposed to be based from, is based upon your population growth, assuming nothing changes. That is around 6,500 homes over 20 years now. And we don't have a time machine. We can't make the borough miraculously prosperous between 2011 and 2017. So the crazy targets we have now are being retrospectively applied back for the last 6 years. This is total madness. And we can see we're losing our young population. We desperately need jobs. We need education opportunities. We need better transport links so that young people can stay living here. Those things can come, and we can have a faster rate of growth in the future. But we've already had, what will be a decade of the plan happen before anything can change. It is fundamental that we should have a sound plan. And I think we should start the plan from 2016 or 2017 so we don't have to try and build houses for the past. And we've got enough housing approved already on countryside and brownfield sites that we don't need to be thinking about building on countryside for at least a decade. This whole process is rotten. The numbers do not match what reality is happening. We are losing population. The ONS, proper government population stats, say we're losing 500 working age people for each one the last 4 years. We've lost 2,000 young and working age people in the borough. The population is only growing because the old people are not dying as quickly as they used to as we've changed the working practices and have better healthcare. But in terms of the working age population, the people who could possibly be buying houses, that population is shrinking. It is also appalling the way we've done this borough plan. There are consultees whose responses will be ignored, and there are people who only found out about the borough plan the day after the consultation ended, because you chose to put the In Touch magazine out the day after, or the day, the consultation closed. This is purely a rotten system, clearly a rotten system.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions to Councillor Condacor?
Just one, Chair. Councillor Condacor, you're calling for it to be scrapped. Do you know what the legislation says if we do not get a borough plan in this year?
If we do not get a borough plan this year, it is potential that the government could take over the process.
It's highly likely that the government will take over that process. So we will have a government institution who
Councillor,
have nothing to...
sorry, you can't
I asked the
answer
question,
him.
right,
You can
sorry.
only ask the
Sorry.
question.
Sorry,
I am
Councillor,
aware
apologies.
the government will take over and the government will do something which may be worse or as bad as you're doing, but we'll live with that chance.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you. Carmen.
Evening all.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, sorry. I would like to bring to the attention the reason I think this council should think again about rescinding minutes 307 and 527 and keep your promise which you made at elections about returning Bedworth Woodlands to the Greenbelt. In point 4.12 of the agenda for tonight's meeting, it states that those resolutions were passed and further work had been undertaken to progress the borough plan. Part of that work was to assess the suitability of the woodlands being designated as Greenbelt. The results of the assessment indicated that the land performed poorly against published criteria in the NPPF. In addition, because of the need to increase the supply of housing nationally, there has been a number of legal cases setting out the legal principles for designating Greenbelt land. Legal advice was sought, which amongst other things indicated that there is no lawful basis for increasing Greenbelt to incorporate the woodlands. As a result of this advice, officers have developed proposals to take some of the woodlands into housing allocation HSG4. To effect this, it would be necessary to rescind minutes 307 and 527. All the above in 4.12 is all well and good if our officers have explained every way to councillors, working party and cabinet members which greenbelt test was used in its legal advice. A very big question, especially today. Which greenbelt test was used by this council in determining Bedworth Woodlands greenbelt? Was it wholly new greenbelt? Bedworth Woodlands would not be new greenbelt as it was once in the early 60s and 70s. It could, however, have been included in the greenbelt by means of changing the boundary to existing greenbelt, which is quite a normal process at a local plan. Why was this ignored? The NPPF clearly states at paragraph 83, a greenbelt boundary can be revised only in a local plan review and that exceptional circumstances are shown. While these are obvious to everybody in this room, the two council resolutions voted for in 2008 and 2012, which under both Labour and Conservative governments, which resolved, this council confirms it's committed to returning Bedworth Woodlands to the greenbelt. Number two, in 2013, the council position, when it's published its local plan preferred options, clearly shows the woodlands as greenbelt extension. Local support from the public, i.e. the Action Group's petition, which asked for it to be put into greenbelt status and which amassed 10,144 signatures, which is still the biggest in the town's history. It also meets 4 of the 5 purposes in a boundary change to greenbelt, as set out in paragraph of the MPPF, paragraph 80, as it would check the sprawl of a built-up area, preventing neighbouring towns merging, assist the safeguarding of countryside from encroachment, and assisting urban generation by encouraging the recycling of land in the urban area. It did not perform poorly in that part of the MPF. MPF states in paragraph 85 defining boundaries, it also meets criteria
Mr. Mayor.
which was preferred options intended. Just
Mr.
give
Mayor.
me 2 seconds, yeah?
I'm trying to be fair to everybody.
It included in the greenbelt, it would be a clear defining boundary against the urban area, that being the A444. The Action Group would like all to think very hard before making a decision to rescind the minutes 307 and 527, as where we come from, a promise is a promise. And that was made by you lot, the Cabinet, tonight. So come on, do what you said and rescind HSG4 from your local plan. Thanks very much for letting me carry on.
Any questions to Mr. Mayor? Thank you very much. Michelle Conduct.
Thank you. So you're lucky I won't be speaking for as long because I forgot to bring my notes that I've made. There are several things really. One of the things is not so much about the plan itself, but just the whole procedure. This has come to Cabinet and it says it's not for call-in, and the reason it says it's not for call-in because of the meeting in 2 hours' time. Now that there was no need to set that meeting for 2 hours' time. So you're actually creating this degree of urgency which really isn't there. Other things in terms of democracy is what Mr. Mayor has just been saying. You know, it basically means that anything that's decided at full council and voted on and said, oh yes, this is what we're going to do, later you can just say, oh no, we're not going to do that after all, let's rescind that and things. And that, to me, is very, very concerning for democracy. Generally on the plan itself, it is very, very worrying that every single housing allocation has the CCG saying there's not going to be primary medical care capacity, and nothing seems to be done. Oh, it's just a problem. Okay, we've got a problem. But nothing seems to be done about trying to resolve that before it's sent to the inspector. And the other thing is on 1.7, how many people thought this was a sound plan? 86. No, 1,411. So, yeah, with those sort of figures, I would have thought you were questioning, is it really sound, and shouldn't we not be looking at it again before it goes to the inspector? Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to Mrs. Conductor? No, thank you. Peter Gilbert, County Councillor Peter Gilbert.
Thank you, Leader. I would like to speak to EMP 7. Residents of Bedworth West are concerned with the lack of consultation in relation to EMP 7 and the employment site proposed for Goodyear's End Lane, as well as unnecessary development being proposed for Greenbelt in Ash Green and off Hospital Lane in Bedworth. There is not, I believe, a demand for 13,000 houses in our borough. Therefore, there isn't a demand for large-scale industrial estate behind Goodyear's End Primary School. Not all of our brownfield sites have been exhausted, and there is existing planning permission for 1,000 houses across our borough that have not yet been built. Due to this, I call on this Borough Council and its leadership not to send this draft borough plan off for examination, and I stand by the residents who are concerned with these industrial developments, and I hope that the council will see fit to listen to their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to Councillor Gilbert?
Just on one point you just mentioned, Councillor Gilbert, the Greenbelt development in Ash Green. Can you just clarify where it is?
The Greenbelt development in Ash Green. Sorry.
Can we have one meeting, please, not at the back?
The Greenbelt development in Ash Green is going to affect the whole of the area. And also, Councillor
No,
Lloyd, what I'm speaking to is EMP7 and the industrial development, which is going to have a dramatic effect on the residents of that area, and I don't believe it's necessary. I understand.
Sorry. You just asked a simple question. Where is it?
In Ash
Green.
That's my response. Ash Green.
Oh, right.
The whole of Ash
Where
Green
in
will be
Ash Green?
affected. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's the public speaker, so I'll come to Councillor Allington.
Thank you, Chair.
There's a gentleman here.
Sorry, could you stop trying to run the meeting, please? The meeting is run from the chair of the cabinet.
I gave my name in to speak.
That is for full council, I believe, sir.
No, for the cabinet as well.
Well,
I did. I
What-
sent-
can I
sent
just
a message
ask your
to Gary
name?
Baxter saying I would like to speak at the cabinet as well.
sorry, what is your name?
Sullivan, CPRE works.
You're on the list for council. You come and sit at the thing, but obviously there's been some miscommunication there.
Well, was asked and I said I would like to speak at this as well. I don't know where that message got. I said I'd like to speak at both.
Okay, it's fine, carry on.
Thank you. The report to the Cabinet, this is CPRE Warwickshire, Mr Mark Sullivan. The report to the Cabinet and full Council does not provide any explanation for why the housing requirement for the borough is set at 13,374 houses in the latest plan that was published in January 2017 for the period 2011 to 31, and not at 6,560 for that period. It does not explain, and members have not had an explanation as to why the alternative calculation of a requirement of 6,560 for the plan period made and submitted by Councillor K.A. Chronicle has not been accepted and used in preparing the housing policies of the plan. Now, we would ask the portfolio holder responsible for the plan to prepare and publish within, shall I say, 2 weeks, a detailed statement that analyses the two alternative housing requirement figures for the borough for the planned period, and explain why the calculations by Councillor Chronicle have not been used to prepare the plan. And we also believe that the council should publish the opinion of Mr. Troon, the barrister who supposedly said that the Bedworth woodlands could not be returned to the Green Belt, even though other land has been taken out of the Green Belt under this plan. You can't change the boundaries in one place and you can in another, rather than keeping it private, Mr. Harvey, because the pins will require you to publish it in the end. It would be much better if you seem to publish it yourself.
Can you just say, I'm personally not the council, and I have not made any decision about publishing or not publishing. It is the council's, not me, not me as an individual.
They've heard it, and I think the cabinet are the ones who can make a decision to publish it. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Councillor Aldington.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So we've reached the next stage in the borough plan process, submission of the plan for independent examination by the planning inspectorate. Just before I go on, I'd like to make an amendment to the current recommendations. So to 2.2, I'd like to add, be given delegated authority to make any necessary amendments to the documents referred to in 2.1 and to prepare and submit other supporting technical documents in discussion with the portfolio holder. So shall I read out the whole
Yes.
as it will read? So the Director of Regeneration and Public Protection and the Acting Head of Planning Policy and Economic Development be given delegated authority to make any necessary amendments to the documents referred to in 2.1 and to prepare and to submit other supporting technical documents in discussion with the portfolio holder for planning development and suggest modifications when requested by the planning inspector during the examination. Now, the reason for this is that the hearings are to examine the main issues highlighted by the inspector and work towards the plan being sound. This means that sometimes during the course of the hearing, officers of the council will agree to change the plan with the inspector and other participants. When officers attend these hearings, they are acting as an expert witness on behalf of the council and use their experience and expertise to take part and give evidence. This is not unusual and also happens during the planning appeal inquiries. Any main modifications to the plan will be subject to a further round of public consultation later on in the year. So if there are major changes to that, then obviously there will be another round of consultation. Catherine, is there anything you want to add on that?
Thank you.
Okay. So that's the reasoning to change that, Chair.
As a result of what the inspector will say.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, thank you. Any other officer wish to add, or member of the Cabinet? So basically this is to put forward to the inspector.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. There's a couple of points I'd just like to direct the Cabinet to. So 3.4. So 3.4 details or sets out the methodology that was used, and it's worth noting, I think, that the methodology that was used, that has been mentioned a couple of times today, is the same methodology that was used across the sub-region, so Warwickshire and Coventry. So other authorities across Warwickshire and Coventry have used the same methodology. And 4.3 details what constitutes soundness. So there are 4 points there, what constitutes a plan to be sound. And of course the inspector will make that decision based on his or her findings at the inquiry stage.
Thank you.
But apart from that, Chair, I'll move that we recommend this to Council tonight.
Is that second?
Second that, Chair.
Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. That will go forward to Council this evening. Thank you very much. Item 7.
Do we need to come back
Do you want Councillor Jackson back in, Chair?
Yes. Yeah, she's just, I was going to say I'll do item 8, but she was not there for that item. Right, we are just about to start on item 7, but we have 2 speakers, so I'm going to ask first of all Councillor Kondaka to speak first.
Yet again, we're being asked to speak before the officers and the members of the Cabinet have told us what they're going to change, if anything, in this document. This document came to the housing scrutiny, housing communities, and the committee was very unhappy, in part, it actually split down party lines, that so much out-of-date information was being used in this document. And it was actually a 3-3 vote, and it was only the casting vote of the chair that actually approved this document to go forward. In particular, a lot of those places in this document where it says 2014-15 Warwickshire Observatory data and this report and that report, the basic data for this stuff, page 40, 8 onwards, is basically sourced from 2011 and 2012. Since then, the borough has had a considerable reduction in the rate of growth, and if you turn on to page 61, which is page 19 of the strategy, you'll see yet again these housing numbers, objective housing needs, repeatedly put in. And that the document that comes from, the SHMA, that has been superseded by a 2016 version. So we keep perpetuating out-of-date forecasts for our population. In that table, on page 61, it says we need 423 houses per year as our basic objective need. Since that document was done, that's now in the mid-300s per year, and when we get up-to-date population data this year, we'll be needing 300 houses a year, which is what I've always said. And fundamentally, we're just perpetuating the inaccuracies from the borough plan and from this idea we're going to have massive economic growth. If you look at these tables, we need 73 houses every year for all this massive expansion of employment we're going to have in the borough, going back to 2011, and that has not happened. The whole thing is based upon a pack of forecasts that have not been corrected. And then they're forecasts from the ONS, which you've then upped, adding another 73 houses per year. The whole thing is fundamentally flawed because of these projections. But going back to the early stage of the housing plan, it talks about housing for older people. This is the housing we should be building. We're just driving 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom houses onto countryside and not building the right number or the right type of housing. We have a serious housing problem in this borough, and it's a serious housing problem because people haven't got the money to afford the houses that could be built by developers. And we have far too many people sitting on empty properties. We've got the flats built where the Bedworth Labour Club used to be. They were built about a decade ago. They're just sitting empty. We have far too many bomb sites like up Queen's Road, just sitting empty, nothing being built on them. We have a housing problem, but it's not a housing problem because we're not building 14,000. It's a housing problem because we've got no jobs.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions? No, thank you very much. Michelle, come down, please.
Thank you. Kate has covered a few of the bits and things, but basically when I read through this, it was more that it wasn't particularly a strategy so much as just a regurgitation of a lot of the stuff that was actually in the borough plan. But the things are not being tied together. On page 60, it says, sort of halfway down on the first column, population and household projections suggest an ongoing need for family accommodation. And it's not family accommodation that's being built. There is a need to cater for an increasing number of young people and older people living on their own. And on the new developments all off the long shoot and what have you, there are barely any bungalows, and those are the sort of things that people actually need. But moving on to page 61 on the affordable housing, it says, the last housing strategy identified a lack of affordable housing in the borough as a major housing concern for the council. This position hasn't changed. In fact, the demand for affordable housing has increased. Why, therefore, have you not increased the proportion of affordable houses that need to be built on, in the borough plan? It's obviously not adequate if the demand is actually, still getting greater. And at the bottom of that first column on page 61, it says the strategic housing market assessment currently recommends 40 to 45% being 1 bedroom. And yet we're building 4 5-bedroom executive homes. We're not planning and encouraging people to build the right sort of houses. So, we need sort of a much better strategy of actually what is the problem and how we're going to achieve it, because we're not achieving what's required.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you very much. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. I draw members' attention to the conclusion on page 41, which says what this strategy is about. It is a document that contains in one place pertinent data and relevant information describing housing need in the borough. And it brings together evidence of housing need, including a range of options for meeting those needs in partnership with our stakeholders. There's an awful lot of information in this strategy about the makeup of the population, types of tenure of housing, etc. Chair, there are, I should tell Cabinet, there are a few minor little tweaks that need to be made to this document. They are typing errors, that sort of thing. So I would like to move, if I can, that the Housing Strategy 2017 to 22 be approved, with minor amendments being made by the Director of Housing in consultation with the portfolio holder. They are very, very minor typing errors that were noticed when we read through the reporting.
Thank you. Can I ask as leader that we make sure there are no typing errors in future agendas? Any Cabinet member? I am very pleased to see that the photograph on the front, as far as I know, are new council houses. That I'm not saying they all, because one of them is actually in Camp Hill, which is housing association housing, and possibly private. It's very hard to privately own. But we are, I'm proud to say, one of the few authorities that has been able to build council housing since 2010, although are obviously very limited, but we have made a contribution as far as we can in terms of building. But we do recognise that most of the building that will take place is by other people. That we need a housing strategy, but we don't have the powers or the resources to be able to build everything ourselves, and therefore this draws out all those points together. So I will second your proposal.
I don't know if Dawn wanted to say anything further, Dawn, in relation to the strategy.
Only really to emphasise that this isn't just about type and tenure. It also recognises initiatives that we've got in place and have ambitions for existing stock, certainly in the private sector. So it isn't just about new numbers of housing and new tenure types.
Thank you. All those in favour then of putting? Thank you very much. Item 8 then, which is establishing a Nuneaton and Bedworth lottery. I've got Councillor Kondaka and Michelle Kondaka. So Councillor Kondaka first.
Right, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Cabinet. This is one of your good ideas, isn't it? Let's create some money out of a lottery. Unfortunately, lotteries don't create money. What they do is they move money around. And if you've got an affluent town, some of these South Gloucestershire places, there may be enough money to run a successful lottery. But this town hasn't got a lot of money. And a lottery, if you look at the table on page 89, will actually only distribute 20% to backers' prizes. So it's not worth playing if you actually want to win and you're a gambler. And 18% plus 4% is external management fees and the VAT. And you've got 8% going to the NBBC good causes. I don't know whether they're biscuits or what they are. Fundamentally, a lottery is something that should be run by a charity, so that you can get, like the hospice, for example. If it run a lottery, I'm sure it would be a very successful lottery. I cannot see an NBBC lottery being successful given its reputation and the overheads. It's just taking a large amount of money and making it smaller with all the management fees. And if you look on page 90, there's a nice table with 5 different assumptions of how many people play the lottery. In the middle table, 1,890 people playing. That will take about £100,000 virtually. So you've taken £100,000, but these 2,000 people you're taking from, are they able to afford it? Are they the best? Yeah, I think the whole idea is actually going to cost collectively the borough money. The money's going to leach out to the management firm. And I don't think it'll be as effective or as popular as a lottery for a particular good cause. We've got some really in-need good causes. We've got the doorway, we've got the hospice, we've got air ambulances. There's lots of things that need money, but actually to just put it into a pot and say, aren't we good as a council? It just takes management fee, management time. It is just another climbing wall in my view.
Any questions to Councillor Kondaka? Thank you very much. Mrs. Kondaka.
Well, when I first heard this about setting up a lottery, I genuinely thought it was a joke. I really did. It baffles me that this has even come forward as far as cabinets and things. We are a relatively poor borough. You know, not everybody, there is a great spread, but it is just encouraging gambling. And the people who are more likely to want to win, you know, a good pot of money are the ones that can least afford to actually spend the money on things. And the return are very, very poor. As Kees already said, you know, if I want to give to a charity, I will give to a charity. You know, I do support various charities on a regular basis and things. I do not take part in any lotteries, national lottery, health lottery, postcode lottery, or whatever they are and things, because it is a very poor way of giving to charity and a very, very small chance of actually, you know, winning anything. And it just really concerns me. Aylesbury Vale that seems to be running, it's a completely different sort of area to, you know, where we are and things. And please, please, please think again, because I'm very, very concerned that it will just cost money, damage the people who least can afford to lose money, and I think it's a very, very bad idea.
Any questions, Mrs. Condor? Thank you very much. Well, the report does propose that the Borough Council establishes a community lottery to generate new funding for local charities and voluntary organisations. This was a successful idea that came from the Allen's Dens competition that the Council carried out during 2016. It would be classed as a society lottery, promoted for the benefit of a non-commercial society, and will be regulated by the Gambling Act. And other local authorities have recently adopted a similar scheme. It's proposed that the set-up costs of £14,000 are taken from the Council's Investor Save return, and it's proposed that the Council uses an external lottery manager to deliver all aspects of running the lottery, from ticket payments, prize management and licensing. I think the important thing to stress is that we are not talking about massive amounts of money, we're talking about very small amounts of money, and hopefully people will be discouraged from putting in extra funds that they don't have into these other big lotteries. One of the advantages is that this will benefit our local community, because there are many, many organisations who, for all sorts of reasons, can't afford to run their own competitions and so on because of the expense of it. With this, people will be able to nominate who actually gets the profit from their stake. So that, I'm just trying to think of one. If you had, for instance, the Bulkington Girl Guides, I don't know if there are any but they would be able to nominate the Bulkington Girl Guides if they came into this, so that people can actually seek to help the organisations locally that they want to help. So it helps those organisations that are too small to be able to run their own thing, and it helps to spread this across the community with very small amounts of money. It has been successful elsewhere. It is something that helps our local community in the terms of ever-shrinking funds. This council is due to have no grant whatsoever from the government by the year 2020. Indeed, we are expected in 2020 to pay the government £1.3 million out of local money, in addition to having no grant. If we are to survive as an authority, we have to be able to look for new and innovative ways of helping local organisations, because those local organisations could end up being seriously starved of funds because we don't have the funds to help them. Our grant is diminishing year upon year. We have lost 60% of grant already. By 2020, it will all be gone, and we are expected to give money to the government to give to other areas, mainly affluent areas. And therefore, we have to seek ways of helping local people to help themselves. And this is one way forward. And it's by choice. It's not a compulsory lottery. It's where people will be able to choose to help other organisations within Nuneaton and Bedworth. So I'm recommending it to Cabinet. Councillor Addington.
Chair, I was just going to say, whether we like it or not, people play lottery, people play scratch cards. Mainly they play the National Lottery. The National Lottery does help good causes, but they help good causes that could be in Scotland, or they could be in Northern Ireland, or they could be in Cornwall, or they could be, Hinckley and Bosworth. They don't necessarily help good causes within our borough. And I think that this that is going to be regulated.
Could I ask you not to have a meeting at the back of the room, please?
I understand this is going to be regulated. There are safeguards in place for example, for people with issues with gambling, and that there obviously are people out there. So I have no hesitation in voting for this, Chair, and I think, the point about being able to help local charities, it might not even be a charity, it might be, as you say, a community centre or something like that. Keep a library open or whatever it might be. So if people want to do that locally, they can, yes, of course, they can give money directly to that if that's what they want. But we are facilitating them to be able to do that across the whole borough and not just little sections.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I put that forward as a proposition. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 9, dog control, public space protection order. Michelle Conductor.
Thank you. I only really wanted to say one quick thing. I mean, obviously it's a no-brainer that you've got to have this, because otherwise the existing dog control orders are going to lapse and we will have nothing in place, which obviously really wouldn't work at all. My main concern is simply that it is actually enforced, because that seems to be a huge issue. I constantly see things on Facebook and people complaining about dog poo all over the place, and where people let their dogs off and things. So it's great having the thing there. I agree that the fine should be greater things, but can we make sure that there are the things in place that it is actually got the word enforced.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Well, in the absence, sent apologies, the portfolio holder, can I say that it is something that we do have to do in 2017, because if we don't, the existing dog control orders will cease to be enforceable. The enforcement of this is not only a matter for the council, but for the rest of the public. The vast majority of people in this borough are responsible people, and the vast majority of dog owners are responsible people. I live next to a park, and I know that most people take their dog on a lead, and they keep it on a lead, and they keep it out of the play area. But the advantage is, when we've got the dog control orders, they can point out to other people that they are not allowed to put their dog into a play area, for instance, that's not on a lead. They are not allowed to make a mess or whatever, and they are given that extra benefit of being able to point out, as are residents in the houses nearby, that is helping. And in fact, somebody only last week said to me, could we have another sign put up? Because she had pointed out to another irresponsible dog owner, and she felt this person was saying to her, well, you show me where it says that. And that is the important thing, I think, about this. It's very, very difficult to enforce something that can happen at any point, anywhere in the borough. But we shall do our best to enforce it, and with the aid of the responsible residents, obviously we'll follow that through. So can I propose this from the chair?
Agreed.
All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Item 10, there are
No recommendations.
no recommendations, and there's nothing else from forward for item 11. So could I thank everybody for their attendance and contributions, and say that you are welcome, of course, at the council meeting at 6 o'clock.